was just another traveler stopping at a roadside gas station and checking into a cheap American motel. But somewhere between the humming neon signs and the endless highway, I realized I'd driven straight into a nightmare I could never check out of. You're listening to ASMR 400 for Found. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I remember the first time I rolled down that stretch of highway out past the state line, where the streetlights get thin and the asphalt feels cracked under the tires, and the air smells like old oil and pine needles, and the night pulls heavier on your shoulders like some weight you never asked to carry. And I swear to God, I had no reason to stop, but I did anyway because the gas light had been on for too long. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere in America, you don't play, but that you stop at whatever station you find, even if it looks like it's been boarded up since the 80s, with peeling paint on the pumps and a buzz from the fluorescent lights. That doesn't sound right in your ears, so I pulled in and the engine ticked with that hot metal sound and the cicadas screamed out in the trees. I swear I heard the crunch of gravel behind me, like somebody walking slow, heavy steps. Deliberate steps the way folks walk when they want you to know they're coming, and I turned and nothing was there, not a damn thing. Just a pump handle swaying in the breeze like empty arms reaching, and I told myself, it's nothing, just the wind, just nerves, just a long drive talking. But the thing about driving cross country is you start hearing things, you start believing things. The store was open, even though the windows were dusted over and the neon sign in the corner flickered open, open, open. And this stutter like it was glitching out, and I stepped inside. And that bell above the door rang out sharp and high, and it kept ringing too long. Like nobody stopped it, like maybe it was wired to something deeper. My boots hit that tile floor sticky like it hadn't been mopped in decades, and the smell hit me first, old coffee and mildew and something like copper pennies left in the rain. And I knew what that smell meant, but I didn't want to say it in my own head. The shelves were half-stocked cans with labels you couldn't read, bottles with liquid that didn't look right, colors that seemed too dark, and behind the counter there was a man, or maybe a shape of a man slouched in a stool, his head tilted down, and when I cleared my throat, he jerked up fast to fast like his neck didn't have the right bones in it, and his eyes found mine milky and wide. And he smiled with every tooth too sharp to crowded, and he said, "You're late," like he'd been waiting for me all this time. And I laughed nervous, said, "I just need gas, sir, that's all, just gas." And he kept smiling like the word gas meant something else to him. He pushed a key across the counter, a big brass key scratched up with numbers that didn't make sense. And he said, "Fill her up, but make sure you pay after, because I don't like folks skipping out." And when I picked up that key, my hand shook, because it was warm, like it had been sitting in someone's pocket for too long. When I turned to leave, I swear I saw in the convex mirror above the chips and candy another version of me standing there, not moving, just staring back with eyes darker than mine. It walked fast out the door, that bell screaming again, and the night was thicker now. No stars, no moon, just black sky pressing down, and I jammed that key into the pump handle, and it turned with a groan like metal screaming, and gas poured into the tank thicker, slower than it should, like syrup, and the smell wasn't gas. It was something sweeter, something rotten sweet, and my stomach turned. Then I heard the crunch again, that same gravel crunch right behind me, and I turned with my fists up ready. But there was no one there, just the pump swaying and the air pressing. The faint sound of the bell inside still ringing like it had never stopped since the moment I opened the door. The pump finally clicked like it was done, and the hose hung heavy, dripping thick drops that hissed. And they hit the ground, and I shoved it back into place, and my hand smelled wrong, like not gas, not oil, but something sweeter, stickier, like melted sugar left out too long. And when I wiped my palms on my jeans, the stains spread darker than they should, and I didn't want to look too close, because part of me already knew he opened the driver's side door and the dome light came on yellow weak, buzzing like it was fighting to stay alive, and in that glow the passenger seat was not empty anymore. There's something there, a shape slouched like a man in a work coat, the kind you see on truckers or guys fixing lines, but the head was wrong. It was tilted forward too far, and I whispered out, "Hey buddy, you in the wrong car." And the thing turned its head slow like a puppet string pulled, and its face came into the light. It was my face, pale, drained, wide eyes locked on me and lips moving. Without sound, he slammed the door shut so hard the glass rattled. And when I looked again through the window, the seat was empty, clean, like nothing had been there at all, and I told myself, drive. Just drive and forget it. But when I sat down behind the wheel, the rearview mirror showed something in the back seat, a shadow taller than the roof. Should allow hunched down, watching and breathing, and the glass fogged from inside. I started the car anyway, that old rattle engine fighting but catching, and the radio came on without me touching it, static at first, then a voice slipping through deep low, like a whisper pressed right against your ear, saying, "You came too far to turn back now. You'll ride the rest of the way." And my hand went straight to the knob, but the volume wouldn't change. It just hissed louder. The station up ahead glowed weak behind me, shrinking in the mirror, and I took the highway straight south, thinking if I keep the pedal down, I'll outrun whatever that was. And the trees blurred on either side, the kind of tall American pines you see stretch forever, and the road narrowed tighter and tighter until it felt like I was driving down a tunnel carved into the woods. The signs on the roadside started looking wrong, like they were bending when I passed exit markers, but they didn't list towns. They listed words like hunger and dead and burial. Each one leaned a little closer to the asphalt, like it was watching me pass, and the speedometer needle climbed higher than I'd ever pushed it, but the road just stretched no end. No exits, just the same black ribbon rolling out after what felt like hours. The headlights hit something up ahead, the motel sign blinking, "Vacancy, vacancy, vacancy," in crooked red letters. One bulb popping with every flash, and the building set low, squat cinder block painted sick green. Kind of roadside motel you see in old movies where every story ends bad, but there it was. My chest told me I had to pull in like my body decided, before my brain caught Oopie swung into the gravel lot and the stone snapped under the tires. And every room door was open just a crack enough for shadows to peek out. I swear I heard whispering from each doorway, the same word rolling over itself. "Welcome, welcome, welcome," and I didn't want to get out, but I knew if I kept driving, that voice on the radio was going to follow me forever. This door stood wide open, a glow spilling out that wasn't lamplight, more like furnace light red. was coming in. The office smelled like heat, not fire exactly, but that kind of dry air that bakes the back of your throat and makes you cough, and the light inside had no lamp, no bulb. Just a glow rising from the floor itself like the carpet was hiding embers. And behind the counter stood a man, but not the same man from the gas station. This one was taller, shoulders bent forward, his skin too thin stretched tight across his jaw. When he spoke, his voice sounded like it came from behind my head instead. His mouth, and he said, "We kept a room for you, been waiting for you since you passed the border." I wanted to ask what border, but the words stuck in my throat. His hand slid across the counter, long fingers black around the nails, and he placed down a key, not brass this time, but iron, dark and pitted and heavier than it looked. And the number tag read 13, scratched in by hand, uneven like carved with a pocket knife. And I tried to laugh like some nervous road trip humor, and I said, "Do you even rent out the other rooms, or just keep this one open for folks like me?" And he smiled, sharp teeth, not too many but too long. And he said, "You'll see they're full enough." He didn't want to take the key, but my hand closed on it anyway, like something made the choice for me, and the weight pulled my wrist down. I stepped back out into the lot where the whispering from the cracked doors. I stopped, now replaced by slow breathing in unison, like every room held something alive. Waiting in, I walked the row, counting 1 to 3 until I reached 13. And the door swung inward without me turning the knob inside the room. The light was dim yellow, like nicotine stained every bulb, and the wallpaper peeled in strips like shedding skin, and the bedspread was the kind of pattern you'd find in every roadside motel. Across America, flowers that faded to name, stained darker in places you didn't want to think about. On the nightstand sat a Bible open to a page torn, and half words cut off mid-sentence, and the letters that remained spelled out, "Get out." But the rest was missing, like the page had been ripped away to latte. Set my bag down, and the door clicked shut behind me, though I never touched it, and the air pressed heavy against my chest like a storm was building inside the walls. I told myself, just lie down, just close your eyes and let the night pass. But the mattress sagged too deep, like something already lay inside it waiting, and when I pressed my hand down, the shape underneath shifted like something rolling closer than. The phone on the nightstand rang sharp, metallic, old rotary style, though it had no cord. When I lifted the receiver, a voice like my own, but slower, deeper, spoke out, saying, "Don't sleep, not here, not yet, not ever," and the line cut to a high-pitched whine that drilled into my teeth. He dropped the phone back onto the cradle. In the mirror across from the bed, I saw the reflection of the room, but different. The wallpaper held the bed untouched, and me standing there, but behind me in that reflection, the door was wide open, and shapes were crowding in, dark shoulders filling the frame, moving closer. While in the real room behind me, the door was still shooty. Couldn't look away, because the reflection in me was frozen, his eyes wide, mouth working like he was screaming. But no sound came, and those shapes pressed closer, filling every inch, until the mirror went black like it swallowed all the light. And when I blinked, it was just me again, just a room, just the sagging mattress waiting. Then the knock came, slow, deliberate, 3 times against the door, and the voice from the hallway spoke clear this time. No whispering anymore, just steady saying, "Check." Out time and the knob started turning, though my key was still in my pocket. The knob turned slow enough that I could hear each piece of the lock, grinding inside like teeth chewing on metal. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering louder than the sound itself, and the air in the room dropped colder like every breath I pulled and turned to ice in my throat, and the knock came again, not 3 times this time, but one long drag against the wood like nails pulling down the grain. I told myself, don't move, don't breathe, maybe they'll think you're not here, but the door opened anyway, swinging inward without a sound. No creak, no slam, just that quiet motion that makes you know it's not hinges moving, it's something else pulling. And the hallway behind was darker than dark, like the light from the lot couldn't cross the threshold. In that black stood a figure, tall, shoulders too wide for the frame, wearing what looked like a motel uniform, faded blue shirt, a badge sewn crooked. But the face was blurred, shifting like the static on at radio, and when it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, low, high, layered, like a whole crowd whispering together, and it said, your room is ready. Tried to speak, but my jaw-locked teeth clenched like my own skull wouldn't let me talk. And the figure stepped inside, slow, heavy boots on the carpet that left no sound, and with each step, the walls seemed to push closer like the room was shrinking around us. And when it reached the nightstand, it touched the Bible with one hand long, gray fingers tracing the torn page, and it looked at me and said, you tore this out yourself. Don't you remember? And the words hit like a memory I didn't want, because I had seen that handwriting before, my own scratched in pen across hotel paper. One night I couldn't see the mattress dipped again, even though I was standing across the room. Something pressing up from underneath the bedspread like a body crawling toward the edge. And the figure in the uniform leaned down close over it, whispering something too soft to hear, and whatever was under the bedspread laughed low, broken like a throat filled with gravel, and the sound shook the mirror until cracks split across the glass. He forced myself to move, lunged for the door, but when I hit the hallway, it wasn't the motel anymore, it was the gas station again, the same dusty shelves, the same buzzing light, and the man behind the counter slouched forward, head tilted, until his eyes snapped up wide, grinning, and he said, back already? You never made it to the highway, and my stomach dropped because the key in my hand was brass again. Not iron, not number 13, but scratched with a number I couldn't read the digits, shifting every time I blinked. He stumbled out of the station into the lot, but it wasn't gravel now, it was dirt, soft and damp with a smell of rain. Though no rain had fallen, and when I looked up, the sign above the roof didn't say gas or motel. It said last stop, letters burned into wood, black and round. The edges like fire had licked them long ago, and in the distance the road stretched straight as far as I could see, but the horizon bent up, not down, like the world was curling into itself behind me. The bell over the door rang again, even though the door was shut tight, and a voice carried out, not one voice, but mine, layered a dozen times, each slightly off like an echo chasing itself. I said, don't leave me here, not again, not again. I felt my knees weaken because the sound wasn't pleading, it was commanding, and the dirt under my boots began to shift, pulling me back toward that doorway as if the ground itself wanted me inside. Ground dragged at my boots like mud, though it was dry dirt pulling me backward inch by inch toward that door. And the bell kept ringing faster, harder, until it sounded like a fire alarm. But underneath that sound, I could still hear the voices. Layered versions of myself calling out, not begging, not afraid, but furious, commanding. Like 100 of me trapped inside, all ordering come back. And the door began to crack around the frame. Like the wood itself couldn't contain what was pressing. Against Edie dropped the key trying to lighten the pull, but it stuck to my palm. Like tar wouldn't fall no matter how hard I shook, and the numbers on the tag kept sliding, changing. Twisting into words I didn't want to read, words like mine, yours. Until finally it just said stay carved deep into the brass and hot against my skin. I felt it burning into the flesh of my hand, but I couldn't let go. I turned my head toward the horizon, because I thought maybe if I ran hard enough I could outrun it, in the road that curled up like the world folding itself open seemed to call like it wanted me on it. But every step forward sank like the dirt turned quick under me. When I looked down, the ground wasn't ground anymore. It was hands, pale fingers clawing out of the earth, each one clutching at my legs, dragging deeper. And the smell of soil turned sharp, metallic like blood, and Penny's door behind burst open. Wind hit me warm, rotten, smelling like meat left in a trunk all summer, and out stepped the figure again, the one in the crooked motel uniform. But taller now, stretched impossibly, shoulders scraping the door frame, and the face shifting faster every second until sometimes it was me, sometimes it was the man from the counter, sometimes it was no face at all, just smooth flesh. It said you can't check out, you never checked, and you've been ours. Since mile marker 0, we pulled free one leg, kicking down on those hands, and ran straight for road, lungs burning, throat raw, and the sky above roared with something like thunder, but deeper like mountains cracking, and as I hit the asphalt it rippled under my feet like water splashing outward, and for a second I thought I'd sink, but it held and I ran harder, faster, the sign behind me shrinking until it was nothing. But still I could hear that bell ringing in my chest like it was inside me now. Not behind the highway stretched endless, but the lines painted on it weren't lines anymore. They were words, long white slashes spelling out over and over, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, and with each step they pulsed brighter until they seared into my vision, and even when I looked away I could still see them burn into the dark, and I knew if I slowed even once, whatever was behind would catch more. But headlights shimmered, a cluster of neon glowing red, blue, yellow, like a town, finally a town. I pushed toward it, desperate, lungs ripping, but as I drew closer I saw it wasn't a town at all. It was the same gas station, the same motel, the same office, repeating like someone copied and pasted it across the highway. 3 for 5 times, each one waiting with doors cracked open and voices spilling out in perfect unison saying, welcome, 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 and me legs locked, knees giving out. I dropped to the asphalt, scraping palms raw, but the ground didn't feel like ground anymore. It felt like skin, warm, pulsing under me, and when I pressed down to push myself back up, it flexed like a muscle twitching, and the line spelled don't stop brighter than ever. But I couldn't move, and in the glow of all those neon signs I saw shadows spilling out of every doorway, walking slow, heavy, deliberate, all of them shaped like me. The shadows moved in unison like a marching line, each step heavy, deliberate. And though they had my frame, my walk, my shoulders, there was something off in the rhythm. Like a puppet show where the strings tangle and the movements stutter, and the closer they came, the more I could see their faces, not fully mine, but stretched to wide eyes, to dark teeth too many, and each one smiled like they knew a secret I never wanted to learn. And the neon lights reflected across their skin, not casting light but sinking into it like they were drinking the color dry, tried to crawl backward. But the asphalt rippled again like liquid, and every push of my hand sent waves down the road, carrying my reflection, distorted faces rippling back at me. Like water, but not water, because when I looked down I could see mouths opening beneath the surface. Rows of teeth grinding, waiting for me to sink through, and the whispers rose from those mouths. All the same voice, all mine, saying, "Stay down, stay." The stay forever. Doppelgangers circled around me, forming a ring, and each one tilted its head at the exact same angle in perfect time, like a flock of crows watching. And when they opened their mouths, the sound that came out wasn't speech, but the ringing of that motel bell, shrill, sharp, never-ending, echoing inside my skull. I clutched my ears, but the sound burrowed straight through bone, straight into memory. I saw flashes of highways, towns, diners, every stop I'd ever made, all folding back into this one place, like I had never left one of them stepped forward closer than the rest. I saw my own jacket, my own boots, the same stains on the jeans except darker. And when I looked up at its face, it was smiling with my exact mouth, and it whispered, though the others still screamed the bell. It whispered clear enough for me to hear, saying, "You've been running in circles. You never left that room, you're still in the bed, sagging deeper each second." And when it said that, I felt weight press against my back, heavy, suffocating, like a mattress swallowing me, wholly kicked out screaming, but the sound came out warped. Not my own voice, but theirs, layered, high-low, distorted, and it filled the night so loud the neon signs shattered one by one, glass spraying, sparks falling like fireflies, and in the flicker, I saw behind them, all further down the road, a figure taller than the rest, standing dead center, shoulders hunched, arms long and dragging, knuckles scraping, sparks from the asphalt, and I knew this wasn't a copy of me, this was the original. Whatever had been wearing my face all along the circle broke apart, stepping aside, opening a path toward that figure, and though every cell in me begged to turn, one eye, the road behind had gone black like a void, no lines, no sky, no ground, just nothing waiting. And the only direction left was forward, straight toward it, and my feet moved though. I didn't want them to, every step slow, heavy, like I was being pulled by a rope tied tight around my chest, and as I walked the figure raised its head. I saw eyes burning red, not glowing like light, but smoldering like coals, and they locked onto me, as if they'd been waiting since the start. Closer I got, the more the road shook, vibrating underfoot, like the whole world was one engine running taut, about to seize. And the figure raised one arm, impossibly long, pointing not at me, but past me, back toward the motel, the gas station, the board ride. Crossed, and when I turned to look, every door, every window, every shadow was filled with faces, all mine, pressed against the glass teeth, grinning eyes wide, and in perfect chorus they said, "Welcome home." The figure stood taller with every step I took, like the distance between between us wasn't closing, but stretching like the road itself was pulling longer and longer. Yet I could feel its heat already rolling off in waves like a furnace on high, and the smell of smoke filled my throat, but there was nothing burning, only that smolder from its eyes. When it finally lowered its arm, I realized its hand wasn't pointing anymore. It was reaching for me, palm open, fingers long enough to brush the lines on the asphalt from 20 feet away, doppelgangers just behind me. Moved in closer, forming another circle, but this time their faces weren't smiling. They were blank lips, sealed eyes wide, staring straight at the tall figure like they too were afraid of it, and for the first time since I saw them, I realized they weren't hunting me. They were hurting me, pushing me toward this thing like cattle down a chute. I couldn't stop my legs because every muscle burned like hide. Run for days and still the pull yanked me forward one step at a time. When I was close enough, I saw the shape clearer. The uniform wasn't motel blue anymore. It was everything at once: denim jacket, business suit, flannel hoodie, shifting from one to the next every time I blinked, and each version fit like it had belonged to me. Once in some forgotten year, and its face was still blurred until it leaned down low. When it came into focus, I saw my own face again, but older, wrinkled, hollow. Eyes sunk deep, skin pulled thin across bone, and its mouth open wide, far wider than a human mouth should, split from ear to ear. And inside wasn't a tongue, wasn't teeth, just darkness so deep it moved. Like water it spoke, not in whispers this time, but in one clear voice, my own voice, worn raw from screaming, saying, "You've been checking in every mile, every night, every stop, and each time you thought you left, you only went deeper," and it leaned closer until the heat from its skin scalded my own, and I felt my chest collapse like air being pulled out of me. And the road beneath began to split, lines cracking wide, opening into gaps filled with fire glowing. Molten red that hissed when my sweat dripped down. He tried to step back, but the circle of copies closed tight behind me, pressing shoulders against my spine, forcing me forward. And the tall figure lifted both arms wide, and the horizon folded upward like a screen pulled to reveal stage lights, and behind that curtain there was nothing but black sky littered with doors floating, endless motel doors, gas station doors, diner doors spinning slow, each one cracked open just enough for eyes to peek out, hundreds, thousands. All of them mind-staring, waiting. Figure reached out and pressed its hand against my chest, and the burn seared straight through bone, straight into heart, and the world dropped out beneath me. No ground, nowhere, just falling down through that darkness, past the doors, past the whispers, past the ringing bell, until I landed hard on a mattress, the same sagging motel bed spread, the same peeling wallpaper, the same torn Bible open to the same half page, except this time the words were different. They said till a teeth phone rang again, shrill, slicing through my ears, and when I picked it up, the voice on the line wasn't mine anymore. It was hundreds layered together, chanting one phrase over and over: check in, check in, check in. With every repetition, the walls shook, the floor shook, the mattress pulled deeper like it was swallowing me whole, and the last thing I saw before the lamp flickered out was the mirror across the room, showing not one of me, but all of them crammed shoulder to shoulder, pressed tight against the glass, clawing to get out. The mirror shook harder than the walls itself, rattling like something alive. was slamming against the glass from the inside, and each crack spread wider across its surface, splitting my reflection into dozens of jagged pieces, but every piece still moved on its own, some smiling, some screaming, some staring straight at me unblinking. And the chanting from the phone grew louder, check in, check in, check in, until I couldn't hear my own breath, and my hand moved on its own, dropping the receiver to the floor where it kept echoing the words through the static. Like a heartbeat, mattress dipped deeper, sucking me down like quicksand. But my eyes stayed locked on that mirror, because one fragment right in the center wasn't just reflecting. It was glowing like light bleeding through from somewhere beyond, and in that glow, I saw the other me pressing both hands against the glass, eyes wild mouth moving in silence. Until finally I realized it wasn't silent at all, I just couldn't hear it over the phone, and when I bent closer, straining my ears, I finally caught it whispering, "Get out, get out, get out." I lunged toward it, pressing my palms to the cold, cracked surface, and the glass flexed soft under my hands like skin stretching, and the other me shoved back hard until my face almost smashed against the frame. With one last push, the mirror shattered outward, spraying shards across the room. But instead of falling, they hung in the air, spinning slowly, each one showing a different version of me, sleeping, driving, pumping gas, signing motel ledgers. And the glow behind them pulled me forward. He fell through the frame, landing not on carpet, not on tile, but on wet asphalt, slick with rain, though no rain was falling, and the air smelled of pine and diesel, and I knew this was a road, but it wasn't any road. I'd driven it was endless, one lane stretching forward, with no sky above, only a ceiling of fluorescent lights buzzing like in a convenience store, stretching on forever, and the hum drilled into my skull and along the shoulders were doors, motel doors, hundreds on both sides, all painted different colors, all numbered wrong, backwards, upside down, missing digits, but every one of them was cracked open just enough to see eyes watching mine, watching, waiting, and as I walked, they opened wider, creaking all at once until whispers poured out, layered, entangled. "You've been here before, you'll be here again. You never left, you never leave me." Boots splashed in shallow puddles, though the rain never came, and each step echoed too loud, like someone was following too close. And when I turned quick, the figure was there again, the tall one with the smoldering eyes, standing just behind me, silent, but its shadow stretched forward past me longer than the road itself, and the puddles rippled from its breath. Though it made no sound, he kept walking faster now, because I knew if I stopped, the doors would open wide, and whatever was behind them would step out, and I didn't want to see their faces, not yet. But one door slammed open on its own right beside me. Out stumbled another me, gasping, clutching his chest, eyes bloodshot, like he'd been running for miles, and he grabbed my arm with a grip so tight I felt bones bend, and he hissed, "Don't keep walking, that's what it wants." And before I could answer, the tall figure reached past me and dragged him back into the dark by the throat, snapping the door shut like it had never opened. At the lights above flickered, and the hum grew louder until it wasn't a hum anymore. It was that same bell, shrill, metallic, but stretched long like an air raid siren, and every door on both sides began to rattle, shaking on their hinges, and I knew the next time one burst open, it wouldn't be just one of me stepping through, it would be all of them. Perhaps rattling rose louder and louder until it wasn't doors anymore. It was bones chattering, thousands of bones grinding against each other, and my knees locked. Because I knew when they opened it wouldn't matter how fast I ran, there would be nowhere to go but forward into more of the same, the long road, the long hum, the same faces. And the buzzing lights overhead flickered so hard the whole ceiling seemed to drop and lift like it was breathing. The first door burst wide and 3 of me came out at once, dragging their feet like broken marionettes, heads lolling, eyes rolled white, and their mouths all stretched open, not in screams, not in laughter, but in that same bell tone. Sharp, endless shaking my teeth, and before I could step back, the next door opened and more of them poured out, stumbling, crawling, climbing over each other, spilling into the hallway until the asphalt was covered in bodies. All of them mine, some older, some younger, some dressed in clothes I didn't even remember owning, and they all turned their heads in unison to stare at me, ran. Because there was nothing else to do, my boots slapping water that wasn't water, splashing thicker, heavier like blood, and the ceiling lights surged brighter every few steps until they popped one by one, glass raining down, cutting my arms. But I didn't care, because behind me they were moving faster, the horde of me screaming, ringing, running on all fours, pounding their fists into the ground, chasing, and every voice hit at once, filling the space. Check and check and check, and the tall figure stayed behind them, just walking steady, long arms dragging fingers across the walls. And every time its nails scraped the concrete, a new door appeared, slamming open to spill more of me out, and the hallway stretched on, never shorter, never ending, just more neon glow. Cracked doors, more puddles that smelled like copper and rot. I felt the weight of it pressing down like gravity itself wanted me to collapse and let them take me. Stumbled, fell to my knees, palms in the wet, slick surface. When I looked down, I saw my reflection in the puddle, but not the me running, not the me terrified. It was the me lying still, eyes closed, lips blue, chest unmoving, like a corpse. And when I blinked, the water rippled and dozens of corpse faces looked back, all mine stacked layer upon layer until the surface broke and a hand shot up, grabbed my wrist, and tried to drag me under. He yanked free, skin tearing, but I kept crawling forward on hands and knees until the road dipped down a slope I hadn't seen before. At the bottom stood one single door, different from the rest, not motel, wood not numbered, but metal, solid, heavy, with a slot of red light glowing through the seam, and every instinct screamed, don't open it, don't look at it, keep running. But the horde behind pushed harder, the bell shrieked louder, and I knew the only choice left was that door. The closer I crawled, the hotter the air grew, the red glow painting my skin like I was already bleeding, and the ground beneath buckled, soft, shifting, like muscle tissue flexing beneath me, and the pounding of all those feet behind grew louder, like thunder closing in, and I reached the handle, slick, burning under my palm, and I pulled hard, door open inward with no sound, no creak, just a void of light pouring out, blinding white and red, both at once, swallowing the walls, swallowing the ceiling, swallowing me whole. And the last thing I felt before falling through was a dozen hands grabbing my back, pushing, shoving, throwing me inside.